Hi there. Welcome to Life Between Coasts, the podcast where we dive into your personal journeys connected through synchronicities. So grab your coffee, light a candle, and let's begin. Today, I am your host, Leah, and we have Mark with us. And I just want to bring Mark into the picture here. I've known him for a little over 20 years, on and off of those 20 years. I first was introduced to him when I was working in property management, that job that everyone knows that I got fired from. But we lost contact. He didn't get me fired.
I didn't know she was fired.
But that's okay. That's why I went missing. So we had lost contact at some point in between, and then one day he walked into my tax office. And from that point on, that was probably now, 15, or now probably 12 years, I think, that you've
Could
been
be more. Could be
delighting
almost 15,
me once a year
12, 15,
with your stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mark, tell us about you.
Oh, let's see. Moved to Michigan in '84. Was born and raised in California, Lower Bay Area, Mountain View, Santa Clara, Sunnyvale area, San Jose. Lived out there till 15, 16.
Mm-hmm.
Then moved down to San Diego for a few years. Then from there, I jumped out to Denver for a year or so. Back to California. Then out to Michigan in '84.
So why leaving California?
I was offered a job from my cousin. So I had worked for him in the past. Why not? He offered me tickets to the World Series to see what it would be like to live in town. Okay, fine.
So '84. So the Tigers were
yeah,
the World
that's
Series.
World Series for the Tigers,
Wow,
and that's where
okay.
it's been. That's what brought me to Michigan.
That's funny that you say that. I have a 1984 World Series Tigers baseball signed by every member of that team. Lance Parrish, Chet Lemon, all of them.
I used to have the program.
I have that too.
I think I gave it to somebody.
Yeah, I do have one of
Can't
those.
say if I have it or not anymore.
It's not yours, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Mine. I don't know where mine would be if I had
I was
it.
a very small child then. I didn't know you then. That'd been weird. Go ahead.
Well, moved to Michigan in '84. Worked for him for a few years. Working in an ice cream store. That closed up. Became an auto mechanic. Met my ex when we opened the ice cream store again. My brothers and I opened it, and it lasted a few years.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I met the ex, and I was with her for 16 years, 17 years.
Okay.
Then after that, it was solo run.
Okay.
Just
What so what did you do over that 16 years? I mean, were you
driving semi-trucks
Okay.
across this side of the U.S.
Okay.
Wasn't allowed to cross over into the Rockies because no permits and stuff like that.
Right.
So I just went on the road as a truck driver.
And what do you see? Give us.
You see everything on the road.
Yeah, I was
Everything,
gonna say,
anything.
Give us a perspective of what a
It's-
truck driver sees, because when you're 5 years old and you're in the car and you're pulling honk your horn, that's fun and games, but there's a lot of
It's
other
fun and
things
games
that
in
are-
traffic too when you do it.
I-
The kids sit next to you and you do it in
and
traffic
10
jams.
times in a row.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
So what is it like when you're going interstate, because you're going multiple states?
A lot of times you don't get the interaction of the drivers of the cars. You just get the traffic of them.
Okay.
You interact more with the people in the truck stops or the places that you go to
Okay.
deliver your products.
Okay.
That's where you figure out what kind of people they are in the area, you know?
Right.
And they'll actually tell you too, don't park over here, don't stay in this area. You got here at a good time. Make sure you get out of the area before, you decide to bed down for the night.
Right.
So,
And so, because you do come across a lot of different people, like what areas were your focus where you were traveling to? Were you going into
I would go
states?
from Detroit I would go from Detroit down to Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
um, jump around there a little bit. Normally it was down to that way, stay down there for the week, and then come back up at the end of the week.
Okay.
Or go down, try to come back up and go down there again.
Okay.
Just depends on where the loads went to. And
Right.
hauling steel is what I did. So
Okay.
it was fun. It was interesting. But you do see a lot of things on the road.
What's the most interesting thing you think you've seen?
Um, the most interesting thing that I could not really explain is how, in a snowstorm, there was a flat trailer, a cab, and a coil. I could not understand how this process went through.
Mm-hmm.
It's obvious how it went. The coil went through the cab, killed the driver, and continued through the cab of the truck,
Right.
and then came to a stop. But it was just like, how could you get into that position?
What?
As a driver of a semi, how could you get into that position? That's just surprising that the guys that do this for a living can't understand that it'll kill you, and they know that. But why cut corners, or what really happened? What really happened to make him wind up in this situation?
Right. So something like that would be what? An unsecured load, too fast, and then
You never
things
know.
shift
It was a
because
snowstorm. It was a snowstorm.
Yeah.
So it could be going too fast. It could be not secured enough.
Right.
There's just all kinds of things that it could have been.
Right.
And you don't want to stop. You can't.
Right.
Because normally what that was a snowstorm. And up in Canada, you're following the truck in front of you, or the car, or whatever is in front of you, following in the same rut
Right.
that they made. So you just drive down the road 15,
Right.
20, 30, 40, 50, 60 miles down the road. And then all of a sudden you see this track going off to the side, and there they all sit.
Right.
1, 2, 3. And you're like, wonder how that really happened.
Right. But nobody can really get to them. Or
Well,
anything
it's over with. They've already been
there and
crews
done.
there. Yeah.
Okay, so they just have it removed.
Yeah, they just haven't removed it. It's off the road. So why deal with it in a snowstorm or
Exactly.
in deep
Exactly.
snow like that?
Okay.
So it's, you just talk on the radio about that. You're like, well,
What conversations do you find yourself having with other truckers on the road? Like so through the CB.
in which aspect? Because
Well,
if
in the
you
nicest way
say
possible.
on
So let's
if you say on the CB radio is one way. If you talk to them in the truck stops, getting fuel, talking
right
side by side, well, he's fueling his, you're fueling his, mine.
What information do you glean from each other?
A lot of times it's which direction are you headed?
Mm-hmm.
What was the weather? What was the traffic like that I'm going that direction?
Right.
You came from the south. I'm heading south. What happened? What did
Right.
you come down the freeway? I'm going to be heading down. What,
Did you see anything?
Yeah, anything happen?
Right.
You tell them, hey, nothing's really going on the way that I came from. So, you're all clear sailing for that.
Right.
It depends on where he goes.
What's the so as part of that same conversation, so on the CB, so when you're on the road communicating, what are they just again traffic patterns or construction, or
it really depends on some people that jump on the radio. Sometimes it's a pleasant conversation. You get plenty of information. You get good information.
right?
And then there are times that people just take it to extremes, and you just shut the radio off.
Right.
Because there's no information.
There's
it's all
nothing.
it's all just talk, and
Right.
it's not even worth listening to.
What made you want to get into truck driving? Just
Honestly, a stable job.
way to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And see the country. I mean, that's kind of
No.
how they sell it. But
They sell it.
They sell it to
see,
you all the way.
drive a semi, see the country. What they don't tell you in that should say,
At night.
no truck parking, no truck parking, no trucks allowed, no parking, no truck parks.
Right.
No
So,
idling.
Right.
They don't give you that information. But
Right.
It's interesting that way, because they'll tell you, you can see a lot and do a lot, but you don't have time to stop and see and do. You see as you drive by at 60 miles an hour,
Yeah.
but don't stare too long, because you need to be paying attention to
On the
what
road.
you're doing on the driving wheel.
Yes.
So you do see a lot. You go through a lot of weather,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people that care about you worry about you
Mm-hmm.
because they hear snowstorms, they hear accidents, tornadoes, they hear this, they hear that. But what they don't know is where you are.
Right.
I may be 100 miles, 200 miles away from whatever they're listening to on the news.
They just know that you
They
happen to be in
know, yeah.
Alabama.
No, they know that I'm on that side of the country.
Right.
West of the Rockies or east of the Rockies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on that side.
But of course, those areas, are like the new Tornado Alley.
There's all kinds of things that can happen.
Between Mississippi and Alabama, I mean, just look at all of that weather that they face down there.
Yeah, it's interesting because you'll be driving down the freeway and all of a sudden you hear, "Hey man, did you guys see that tornado touchdown?" Well, where are you?
Right.
And he's like, "Well, blah blah blah," and it's like, I'm thinking to myself, I should have seen it. I'm not too far away from where he is. Why didn't I see it?
Right.
It's like, wow, okay.
I'll keep my eyes open next
Exactly.
time.
But I have been in some pretty decent, scary weather.
Yeah.
Snowstorms, ice storms.
Right.
And they do get scary.
What would you say would be the best piece of advice you could give to a driver of a car, motorcycle, or just regular pickup truck on the freeway and or roads, for the safety of everybody on those roads from the perspective of a truck driver?
Take a 12-hour drive with the truck driver.
Really? Well, what if it's not possible though? But just even what if
watch the 12-hour or get a clip of what it's like.
Mm-hmm, of everything that they have to look for and
because
watch out for.
I could be driving down the road for 20 miles, 30 miles and have no issues with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I could be driving the whole day and really have no issues.
Mm-hmm.
Then you come into town or you're driving down the freeway and all of a sudden everybody and their brother wants to be in front of you.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to make room. Nobody wants to. It's just like they're magnetized to you or they're repelled against you.
Right. Well, it's just a lot of people don't understand that.
That's
stopping like a Harley, for instance, is the same thing as trying to stop a small vehicle, like a small car, like a small Honda or something of that sort.
It's a lot different. Weight-wise is a lot
Trucks
different.
Take
people
a
don't
lot
understand.
more
Yeah.
room to
People
stop.
never understand that.
And
well, you do because you do my taxes,
and
you that's why you started doing my taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Is because you knew how to do taxes for a driver.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which leads me to how we re-met was I was looking for my taxes to get done and everybody in town says, walk-ins welcome, walk-ins welcome. I went to 3 places and everyone's welcome. I'll get to you. I got an appointment in 2 weeks. I can see you next Wednesday. Well, then why do you have a walk-in sign?
Right.
Walk-ins welcome. So I'm frustrated and completely irritated with the whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm driving back home to my brother's house and there's a guy outside with a sign that says, "Mr. Taxes, All right, I'll give it one last shot.
Mm-hmm.
Pull in and you show up and you're like, "Hey, I know you."
Well,
and I'm like,
I let you vent first.
Yeah, well, you let me go. You let me
straight.
go about the tax things. About, hey, all right, I'm here to do my taxes. Can you do them right now? What's the wait? 2 weeks, 3 weeks? What is it?
And then I stopped you.
Then you stopped and said, "No, you can sit right down and get your taxes done right now."
And before I even said any of that, I
You
said,
knew
"Is
who I
your
was."
name Mark?"
Yep.
And you said, "How do I know you?"
Exactly. Exactly.
And so
how do I know you? And it's like,
for
wow.
A quick moment, but then you realized I was an ally at
Right.
that point.
Right.
And so
Which,
we were good.
we had met many years ago, and you've been doing my taxes since.
Yeah. And you brought your brothers.
Well,
in,
that
so
was
you
later
referred
on.
people.
That was after you helped me buy a house.
Yes.
And which I can never say thank you again for that.
Yes.
Even the guys at the closing table was a little surprised to get it done, and that was. I thank you very much
You're
for
most
that.
welcome for that.
It was even they said, being a driver, you should not have been approved
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was a whole big thing there.
But
And
we were able to
yeah,
to show.
to pull it all through, and that
Yeah.
worked out.
No, we were able
So
to get you into the home ownership again,
right, or
and building your
yes,
equity and doing those right things. And so you've definitely had some roller coasters because
well, we became
obviously
friends, and I always try to, who's doing taxes? She
the
does a great job.
thank you, and the purpose of you walking in that door was unfortunately because of the demise of your relationship with your ex. So you just
No, I needed to do my
you
taxes
needed to do that, but you needed to get everything
in order.
in order.
Right.
And so when you decided to fly solo, that was like the bottom of one of your roller coaster hills that you've been on.
Well, divorce came in, and that was just because you signed the papers on a divorce doesn't mean it's over.
Right.
That could just be the beginning of a wonderful journey that some people get to enjoy.
So in your case, unfortunately, the divorce was not pleasant.
It wasn't a pleasant divorce.
It wasn't. Yes. There wasn't something that some people can part as friends and just kind of take a chainsaw per se and say go zip right down the middle and be done.
And be done with it.
And
shake hands
on.
And walk away.
Yeah.
And parent the children together.
Correct. And then there's sometimes there's the parents that use the children, and I've said this on numerous occasions, but use children as pawns, which I just absolutely don't believe in any way.
Yes, but
against the other parent.
It,
They do, and it's unfortunate for the children because the children then have to choose, and or forced really to choose, and then they're confused,
or their choices are taken away,
or yes,
so it's. But then again, once you get into that situation, there is that you do it too, to get back at her for what she did. You do it too, and it just is a vicious cycle.
Just dragged into
doing the same thing, and you're using them, and you sitting there accusing of using the kids as pawns. Now you're doing it, and
then you get sucked into it.
It just doesn't end.
And it never works, and it is anything helpful.
Escalates to a point where it doesn't work.
So now you're at a point where, so you are, obviously we know that you're divorced. We know that you have, how many children?
2
children. But you don't have a relationship.
No.
With, so you're estranged from. But they're both adults now, and they have the option if they so choose.
Yes.
But it's in their the.
One is 23, if I'm not mistaken, and the other is 18.
Okay, so the ball's in their court if they choose to have a relationship.
It was open when it was. Made phone calls. Well, I made a phone call, but at a certain time, that was
right.
That was my gesture.
Yeah. And how do you feel? I mean, so are you something like that for you? I mean, because when you're facing or you're talking about things, how does that inside you? You've reached out. You've made the last gesture and said, if you want to be part of my life, I'm willing to be part of yours. You choose, and you step away at that point, or how do you feel about that though? The fact that they haven't come back around or wanted to have any relationship with you.
What is the question?
How do you feel?
How do I feel about
them
not wanting a relationship with me?
I mean, we don't know if they don't want to, or they don't know how to approach it.
There's nothing I can do about it. Right. There's nothing I can do about it, and there's nothing I can say that will create a conversation with them.
Right.
Or a talking whatever.
Right.
They're either going to have to come around to understanding what's going on in life, or they're not going to and live life with blinders on.
Right.
I have no control over that.
Right.
I haven't for many years, and you can't try to fix something that you have no control over. It'll drive you crazy.
Right.
So.
Right, so you've just you've released that. Then.
You just kind of wash your hands off of it and hope for the best.
And hope for the best.
Yeah. Maybe one day, maybe not, but you never know. But that's all you can do when in a situation that I had.
Right.
There wasn't much else I could do with it.
So you move on. You buy a house. You're
Buy a house.
you're on the road. Let's talk about, how sometimes things happen. You were planning on doing some upgrades to your house that you purchased. There's some work that needed to be done. And let's talk about sometimes how the universe, and because I do believe that the universe forced this issue with you. Thank goodness for insurance, let's say.
Yeah.
The insurance company's not so happy with you, but
No.
you were out on the road to come home and your boiler had erupted.
I came home to a rainforest.
A rainforest, yes,
That's
inside
the
your
best I could
house.
come up with. It is a rainforest.
And it'd probably been going like that for at least a week because you were gone for a week.
I said, like they asked me, how long has this been going on? And I said, well, let's say I left Monday morning at 8 o'clock,
Right.
and I'm coming home at 9:30. How long do you think
Friday
this has
night.
been?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. The way it looks, it could have been what, 5 days.
Yes.
It's the walls are saturated. Everything's drenched.
Yeah.
You pick up the computer and just drain water off of it.
Oh my god.
You just had to laugh. You just had to laugh.
But that put you on your
That put
remodeling
me-
journey, and so you were able to actually recreate the house how you.
I was able to move the kitchen to the other side of the house, make it a little bit smaller, change things differently.
Right.
There's a lot of things that I did that I should have done differently,
Right.
but doing the house by
Right.
yourself the first time, not really being in control of it because you're gone 5 days,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of shit didn't get done the way it should have.
Right.
So
And that's hindsight.
What do you do?
That's hindsight, and so there's certain things that you think
should
about,
have done differently.
Right.
You know?
And so, but you were in a position at that moment.
I was under the gun of the insurance company wanting the house done,
Yes.
and they refused to kick up because of, quote, pre-existing problems.
Mm-hmm.
So that took and threw the whole house project on its head.
Right.
So I had to invest more into the house to finish what I had started.
Right.
And that's going on 3 years now.
Yes.
4 years.
But
3 years.
in the end,
It's
you'll have.
looking good. It's looking a lot better.
Yes.
I have a lot of improvement on it.
Yeah.
Some people say they don't understand why I put cedar closets in or why I built a pantry off the main kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need a pantry for? You're a single person.
Well, it's not just for you. It's
Well,
whoever
it's
occupies
whoever.
the house.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think when I sell the
Yeah.
house or rent the house out, it's going to be somebody that doesn't fill the pantry. I mean,
Right.
I have a lot of pots and pans, and that's what basically fills my pantry. But as I was told,
Mm-hmm.
a pantry is pots, pans, and food. So you have to have food in the pantry for classified as a
The
pantry.
Yes. Well, you
So,
could put pasta or something.
There
in
you go. I started putting food in
Shelf,
the pantry.
Shelf-stable items. So
I put the pots and
that's good.
pans on the walls,
Right.
and I put the food on the shelves.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to work out the shelving units and how I line everything up, because you can't give a pantry with nothing, just 4 shelves and that's it.
Right.
4 shelves and a rack
Yeah.
on the wall. How do you organize? You got to have a little bit more setup to that. So I want to put in there for the cookie sheets, the the
You'll get
specialty
organized.
pans, and it'll be a little block of wood that'll just slide the pieces into,
Mhm.
and you can see them. That's one thing that I need to finish on the house, but
Little things like organization. So don't
to
worry.
make it look more organized.
Don't worry. My house
Yeah.
is 100 years old, and I have a 4x4 hole in my ceiling because of a plumbing leak from the upstairs bathroom, and my floor sags, and so I'm waiting to do that. And I still want to do the kitchen that I've planned 12 years ago. So eventually it will get done.
Yes.
But I gotta say, this is the house that I've lived in for the longest period of time over my entire life. So I'm happy to let it disintegrate around me as I'm repairing each room
Right.
on its own one by one. So I'm just so happy to be where I love my house. So
Well, I like my house. I mean,
Mhm.
it's been a struggle with the house, but I do like it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I like it. It suits me for what I need. It gave me people I knew
Yes.
next to me,
Mhm.
keeping an eye on a property
when
but
you're
I'm
not
gone 5 days.
there. Right.
And that's really what I was looking for, that I could put all my belongings in one spot, know the people next door that can help me keep an eye on what I
Right.
own. And that's why
You
I
like
got
where
where I
you're
got,
at. So,
And it's,
but I want to talk. Let's move a little away from that.
okay,
Is that your phone?
yeah, I think that's mine.
Turn it off.
If you just want to swipe it and hang up on them,
Where is it?
it's in that green bag.
We forgot to check your phone.
I forgot to turn it off.
But that's okay, because that was a good stopping point when that happened. Because I was trying to get you off your pantry. So, we're going to talk about camping.
I like my pantry.
I like your pantry. I need a pantry.
Okay.
You get it?
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
You want me
It
to-
wasn't the police looking for me, was it?
No, it was just a random number.
Okay.
You may clap to restart.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we're going to talk about. I'm going to lead into what your diagnosis.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to talk about that. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Ready?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Now let's talk about going into what's happened over the course of the last 18 months. Something that's kind of rocked your world, and things that have changed
Oh,
you.
that's right. That's right.
That thing.
I fell in love with a woman. I ran off to Paris and got married, and I just came back to do your little podcast. That's what it was. I try to play that down.
Correct.
I really try to play that down because
she's
people are jealous.
She's an amazing.
People are just jealous.
An unfathomable amount of money. Correct, doesn't she?
Wow.
I'll take some of that, please.
You can have it all because I can't even come up with that word. No.
So let's talk about that.
Over the past 18 months, wow. You want to talk about a roller coaster?
Yeah.
Well, as you know, I was on the road. 18 months ago, I was on the road, or just coming off the road.
Mm-hmm.
It had gotten a little difficult for me to do my job because I couldn't breathe,
Mm-hmm.
and I was having chest pains at times.
Mm-hmm.
Went in to the doctor, tried to get it checked, and within a week, I was diagnosed with lung cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of took over the world from that point. You go on quote an extended vacation. Now you go on a extended medical leave to try to figure out what's going on, how it's progressing, what exactly type of cancer it is, and then you want to get a second opinion about it all, and it takes over your world. It really does. And I have to admit, it's an interesting journey that I've been on.
So tell me about your diagnosis. So you were having trouble functioning, doing your job, breathing. The movement. I know, because usually, especially lung cancer, somebody says, I've taken the flight of stairs every day for 20 years, never
Right.
had an issue, and that one day.
Well, for me, I was having a hard time wrenching, using physical body to work with, because that's what the job was.
Mm-hmm.
You would do that and you would get tired faster and faster and faster.
Mm-hmm.
So before, when I could sit and do 4 chains without a problem, and then take a quick, breather,
Right.
a chug of water, and then get the other 4 done, and I'm done. Double check everything, and
Mhm.
you're out the door.
Right.
After a while, it got to I could only tie down 2 chains. Then I have to tie down 2 more. Then I'd have to tie down 2 more.
Right.
And then the last 2. And then double check everything and make sure everything's okay.
Right.
So it just became a lot harder to do the job. Breathing, expanding your lungs to get enough oxygen in. It just wasn't there. So wound up getting diagnosed. They originally decided to, well, no, I take that back. One hospital, my primary care doctors hospital diagnosed it. Kind of shaky with it, but I decided to go to the U of M and see what they had to say.
Mm-hmm.
So always ask for a second opinion. I took a short vacation, drove out to California, visit my dad, tell him what was going on, come back to Michigan and go in for lung surgery, or no, I'm sorry, go in for diagnosis.
Okay.
And after the diagnosis from the U of M, it was decided to remove the lower lobe
Okay.
on the right side. So when the procedure came to be, it was close to the end of the year, around Christmas. So I consider that when I started my cancer treatment is basically the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
They went in for the surgery. They didn't remove the lobe. They decided to keep it in because they say they found more floating in the area, and if they removed it, it would have made it like puff like a cloud of dust.
Okay.
So they said leave it in and go on from there. But I didn't know this at the time until after I woke up from surgery.
Okay.
So my dad and family were there, and that was when I was informed that no, they did not take it out.
Okay.
So I had all my parts, but I had also 5 little probes that were in. So just because they didn't take it out doesn't mean, okay, all done.
Right.
Now becomes the hard part of moving.
Right.
And when they said they were going to keep it in, they decided to, well, they put me onto a chemotherapy program,
Okay.
which is a immunotherapy with the chemotherapy. So it was like 5 hits of chemo,
Mm-hmm.
21 days apart from each other,
Mm-hmm.
with immunotherapy right behind it, which would be an IV for between the 3 IVs. It would be 4 hours with an IV hooked up every 21 days.
Right.
Then it became just the immunotherapy part, which wasn't as toxic as the other ones.
Right.
And it just works out a lot better, and it doesn't make you sick as much. It doesn't bother you as much. That's where I'm at now with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And now what?
That's a year and 3/4,
So what's
a year and a half, year and a half.
what's the? I mean, obviously, so you know the cancer's in you. You know that you're doing treatment. You know, I mean, there's a lot that is intertwined in that big ball. How do you process that? I mean, you're still processing it, obviously. But what do you feel? What do you like in your mind?
How do I process it?
Yeah.
As soon as I figure it out, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing I
mean,
can
but
say.
did you think about your mortality before being diagnosed, or did you say, okay, well, when I'm 80, it's going to happen?
You're gonna die when you're gonna die.
Right, but did you
mean,
think
you have
about
no choice.
anything?
You have no choice. I was on the road for 18 years.
Right.
I could have died any one of those days in a car accident,
You
in a
could
truck
have.
accident.
You could have. But you don't
But
really
they
think
don't
about that
say
doing
that.
an everyday
Right,
item.
they don't say that. But then again, a doctor can turn around and say, hey, you got cancer and you have
And
6
pull-
months to live.
Pull the rug right up from
Yeah,
under
you have 6 months to live if you don't do anything, and you have a year, 3 to 5 if you do.
Right.
But you have 3 to 5 if you do it, but they don't tell you those first 2 is the basic treatment of the whole 3 to 5.
Right.
So you got to take the treatment, got to take that if you can.
Right.
Some people can't make it through the treatment.
Right.
So it's just
Well, and that's I had made that comment about my mother, doing quality versus quantity because
Right.
she couldn't take treatment.
right.
It made her so ill, but they didn't expect that anything was going to improve.
Right.
But when this roller coaster, this
Well,
you go ups and downs, so
since-
that you think they're taking the cancer out, you wake up, no, I'm sorry, we couldn't, but you're going to have to start this treatment program. Going on this treatment program, have you seen improvement? Have you seen? I mean, how are the doctors respond to you?
See, improvement is. I mean, what?
I don't know what.
How do you classify improvement?
Right.
If you cut yourself, you get a scar.
Right.
It's never going to go away. Or it'll take a very, very long time to go away, especially a deep scar.
Right.
I have scars that I've had since I was a child, teenager, young. So when they dig these probes into your body, that every time they push them in, it's a scar tissue when it comes out.
Right.
That's been disturbed. So I have 5 different angles coming in towards one lung.
Right.
So I have all that to contend with, and it's like you can't let it bother you because there's nothing you can really do about it except for realize you use the core of your body a lot more than you think you do. You stretch for something, and my goodness, it doesn't work to stretch, does it?
Right.
No, it hurts. You just go through different things with it. It's hard to deal with it sometimes, and then other times it's not. Sometimes I don't even think about it. So it won't bother me. And people are like, well, doesn't it bother you that you have cancer? How did you get it? From how? As they told me, luck of the draw. I got lucky.
It's a mutated,
I got lucky.
cell. It is what it is. Unfortunately, certain things, certain factors. But you weren't a smoker.
Not for very long. No, not enough to quote classify this as smoking cigarettes.
Correct.
No.
So that would be that's certain people, there's contributory negligence, let's say, to certain cancers. Yes, to certain cancers and certain.
But then again, you hear of people smoking cigarettes, pack a day.
Yeah.
And they die from something else. Not a spot of lung cancer.
Right.
But there are many different types of lung cancer, and each
Exactly.
treatment in the lung cancer is different for each person.
Right.
So I just am going to go with the university that I chose, or the hospital that I chose, to make sure that I get what I need to fight off whatever it is.
Right.
Show improvement. Mobility would be improvement. Not hurting when you do something, that would show improvement. But as far as the mass, that will basically never go away. So you can take CAT scans and x-rays and all that, and you're always going to have that mass.
Right.
Is it growing? It'll never shrink. So they can mark how big it is, and from there they can say it's shrinking, it's growing, whatever. But it will always stay there because it's a scar. And what can you do with it? Your body's going to keep it. So every picture, the scar is there.
Yeah.
So is it growing? No.
Yeah.
Am I better from it? Could be.
But right now, it's just
Hasn't grown.
Just
It's growing. It might be growing. It's growing. No, it's not. Yes. No. That's a roller
it's just
coaster.
one step forward each day.
It just burns you at that if you think of it that way, and I try not to anymore. I really do. I try not to think of it that way. There's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
So
then
I just have it.
So you're committed to taking the treatments.
Yep.
You go and you do every 21 days, and you're on this program through the end of this year before they decide to, your hospital team, this initial program treatment to your program ends, and then they'll decide what your next step is for continued treatment.
Yes.
Because they said you're one of the longest on
well,
the program.
I'm on that spectrum to taking the whole program.
To being able to accomplish the whole thing, which is always a good thing.
True. It's got its pluses.
Correct. And then, so what's the next chapter? What do you, not knowing, didn't mean to hit the mic there, but not knowing between now and there, what do you hope to accomplish now? Like
get ready to be mobile. Get ready to be mobile. Thin down the stuff that I own right now, and be prepared to go for a longer stay in California to visit my father.
Right.
Or just to go south and go kayaking in lakes or rivers and try to do something instead of sitting in a house that
just have the four walls around you
I'm
closing in.
I'm
You
just
just
there.
wanna be out
I
and
just want to be out. I
experience.
just want to do something. I can't.
You were always a traveler before,
I was,
even
yes.
outside of what your profession was. I mean, you
Yeah,
would plan
yeah.
trips. You'd been down, well, obviously going to Mexico on numerous occasions.
Right.
But
I've
then,
flown down to Mexico for the
uh,
pyramids,
but
and
you
I went
did
there
all of
by
that.
myself.
I always recommend solo travel. I think it's a great thing.
It is and it's not.
Well, it's,
I mean,
you do get a little bit lonely, but you do have that time for yourself to reflect and to understand.
but you can also see what you want to see on
and,
your own timeline.
and not have to entertain anyone else or pay for anyone else. Those are the good
Yes,
things. There are
exactly.
some advantages. However,
You know, but it is nice. I mean, you can hook up with the tours and stuff like that, and that's what
Yes.
I did when I went.
and you're a gregarious person, so you're not alone ever. You know, when
No,
you walk into a room, you attract people.
I can find somebody in the room to talk to.
Absolutely. That's always
And then,
a
of course,
plus.
I can find people that don't want to talk to me in that same room. So that's a two-way street on that one.
Well, because sometimes that outgoing, passionate,
Exactly.
loud behavior isn't always acknowledged appropriately.
A lot of people can't handle loud.
Yes.
And in my profession, you needed to be in order to be heard.
Between trucks and generators and
Yeah.
motors, and
Well,
you have to.
Standing there with machinery running and he's trying to put things on your trailer, you got to hear him. He has to hear you.
Mhm.
You have to either make
Mistakes
sides,
can be made.
you have to make hand gestures, something to get his attention. And if the noise is there and he can't hear you,
Absolutely.
something happens.
Absolutely. Now, considering how colorful your life has been up until this point, and the things that you're facing and the things that you're on your plate going forward, what what's your best piece of advice of all of those ups and downs and how you've pulled forward and persevered? What's your best piece of advice to give?
Don't take the path I did. I'll stop you right there. Don't take the path I took. I can tell you how to deal with it.
Oh, goodness gracious.
It won't work.
Stay away from that one.
Exactly.
And then, well,
No, it's hard because each person has their own thing that they're going to have to deal with. I deal with cancer differently than somebody else would.
right.
I was talking to one of the social workers in the beginning about cancer, and he said that he was pretty surprised with the attitude I had towards what I have.
Mm-hmm.
And like I told him, I said, there's nothing I can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the hands of God, or it's in the hands of the university or the hospital that I'm going to.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Or
in my
both.
hands.
Or the universe.
Or both.
Let's throw the universe
Exactly.
in there. You've got.
It's the universe path
Yes.
for me. So
Yes.
it's,
Yes.
um,
But things happen. I mean, I always say things happen for a reason, even
True.
the bad things.
Well,
Unfortunately,
it is what it is,
But there might be a reason in there somewhere.
Oh, sure. You didn't learn something, when
Yeah.
you were younger, so you have to learn it now,
Maybe.
Or is it you're reincarnated because you didn't learn it last time, so you're going to learn it this time? There's a lot of different theories on how that goes, The best advice I can do is deal with what you can.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully without drug, but if you have to, pain is one thing, but if you're going to take it because I can get it for free, no.
Yeah.
Don't deal with it that way. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to mask it and you don't deal with it.
Yeah.
So deal with the issue.
Deal with it. And
You
that's
know,
the
you
key.
can't-
You do have to go straight in. I mean, there's people that, you can't just pull the curtains and hope it goes away. You do have
No.
to face that. And whether it be cancer or some negative thing, you still have to face it and
Right.
just be strong and deal with it the best way you know how. And,
Exactly.
and that's
Or
the
try
key.
to get the help that you can.
It's at least try. You
Exactly.
might, because the first thing to do is ask for help. It's like when you find yourself, what can you do for me? How can you help me?
That is the hardest thing for a lot of people, is to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's you did. It is. They asking for help is very hard for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do it. It was hard for me to ask for help. um, because for one, you don't know what their answer is going to be.
Right.
I don't like an unknown.
I understand,
It's
but
hard to
sometimes
work with an unknown.
But sometimes if you don't put it out there, then if
True.
you don't ask, they don't know to offer.
As they say, doesn't hurt to ask.
It doesn't hurt. The worst thing they can say is no.
No.
And
The worst they can say is no.
that's a pretty easy rejection to me.
They could say, ew, no.
Ew, no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They could say that too.
That would be one too. And then on a final note, Mark, what is your personal anthem? What is the song that speaks to you that when you needed to pump yourself up, say before going into a doctor's appointment or before going in to any other type of appointment or interview or anything, what is the song that speaks to you that carries either through your life or through a chapter? That's your song. That's your anthem.
Don't have one.
You've
Don't
got
have one.
to. You're a music guy.
Each thing that you're going to deal with is different. So
for this moment right now, what would your anthem be?
I have no idea because I'm not thinking of a musical theme
No,
to life
what
or
would
what
give
makes
you the
me
strength? I mean, would it be? I mean, it could be.
one foot in front of the other.
Yes, is that a song?
No, I
that's
don't
just
know
your
if it is.
mantra.
It's just
a mantra.
you can't just stand there. I mean,
Mhm.
whether you have a song or
Right.
you have something that gets you motivated, it doesn't make a difference because you have to do it. You have to move. You have to go forward.
You do.
So whether you have something to help you, that's great. I just
Choose not to.
take that step.
Just keep going forward.
Sometimes it hurts, and sometimes it don't.
But that's
You
all
could
right.
put all kinds of songs to that, but why?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah, music is music, and it does speak to a lot of people, and it happens that.
I do find that it is healing. So sometimes, and
Yeah.
the older songs are much more lyric based, and they've done a study in the last couple of years to show that the songs that are coming out, the lyrics that are coming out now, are the vocabulary is cut in half. They're less meaningful. They're more repetitive. So it's basically dumbing us down as a society in the lyrics. Just the same.
Well, that's interesting because I don't listen to new music.
Right. I listen to all.
I don't listen to new music,
Yes.
so
I like singer songwriter, folk, or 70s.
I listen to everything.
Soft rock,
I listen
Billy
to a
Joel,
lot
of
of different,
course.
music, but it's just music. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't. The new lyrics. Yeah, you're right.
I'm gonna sell
There's
you.
a lot.
I'm gonna sell you on an anthem. I'm gonna find one that's meant for you.
All right.
I will. That's my quest. I'm
Little-
gonna find
little-
an anthem for you.
Little brother used to do what is that? They made that movie Convoy. He always used to joke about CB and
Oh,
Rubber Ducky and Truck Driver and it was
Smokey and the Bandit.
well, that was one of them. Yeah, and then they had the other one, Convoy, where they
Yeah.
ran the convoy across. Yeah, that was.
That was actually before my time.
Yeah, that was way before my time.
I was some of those airings of times, so I can't account for those.
I was into the truck driving where the government controlled everything, and they really enjoyed controlling everything.
Yeah. So, well, I am going to make it a quest to find an anthem for you. But on that
Too much of a loner.
On that note, I want to thank you for joining us today on Life Between Coasts. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and have a great week. Bye-bye.